Would you risk everything for love, even if it meant defying family and duty? Beneath a vaulted ceiling gilded with ancient carvings, the great hall thrummed with the muted murmur of nobles clad in riches that glimmered like stars trapped in fabric. The air was thick-heavy with the scent of burning candles, polished wood, and the underlying tension that few dared to voice. Prince Alaric stood at the center of the room, his form tall yet seemingly fragile among the crowd. The glow of flickering torches cast warm golds upon his clean, simple garments, their elegant restraint a subtle rebellion against the opulence surrounding him. His deep blue eyes, shadowed by a restless spirit, scanned the faces, some gleaming with expectant pride, others narrowed in quiet scorn. The murmuring swelled, then stilled as the king, a towering figure clad in embroidered velvets, stepped forward. His voice rang out, sharp and cold, slicing through the heavy air like a drawn dagger. "My son," the king began, his tone laced with disappointment, "while you fancy yourself learned and valiant, the crown demands strength, decisiveness, and unyielding will. Your ideas are naive at best. A ruler who hesitates is a throne searching for an heir." Gasps rippled through the assembly, the tension quickening like a drawn bowstring. Alaric's heart thudded painfully within his chest, the words a weight pressing down with the force of 1,000 stones. The caged bird within him flapped desperately, its song muffled by the cold bars of expectation and failure. A single rose petal fell from the embroidered wreath held by a courtier, the delicate bloom descending like a silent symbol of innocence lost. The air grew colder as the king's glare drilled into Alaric's soul. "Tell me," the king demanded, voice low and unforgiving, "how can you lead a kingdom if you cannot even assert your place in this room?" Alaric's jaw clenched, breaths shallow in the rising storm of shame and defiance. His gaze flickered to the hidden dagger at his side, a quiet testament to threats veiled in smiles. Beside him, the golden warmth of a distant candle waned, shadows creeping to claim the corners of his uncertainty. He dared not meet the eyes of the assembled nobles, especially that of Duke Varian, whose smirk betrayed an ambition sharpened like the blade concealed beneath his cloak. The prince's voice, when it emerged, was barely more than a whispered storm. "I am still learning," Alaric said, voice heavy with both humility and a fierce ember of rebellion. "But I will not be the man who simply bows to fear." The king's laughter was a cruel echo, ringing cold and final. "In time, perhaps. Until then, you remain a boy chasing shadows." As the court's whispers grew louder, Alaric withdrew slightly, the crowd a sea of opulence and expectation that threatened to drown him. The fading flicker of the rose petal drifted to the floor, a quiet elegy to a moment suspended between repression and the faintest spark of hope. Alaric's fingers tightened on the edge of his cloak, the caged bird inside him still yearning, the dagger a secret promise that his story had only just begun. The hall simmered with silent questions as the prince turned away, stepping into the corridor where light and shadow danced, a young man caught between the gilded cage of duty and the wild call of freedom. The heavy oak doors of the great hall creaked shut behind Prince Alaric, muffling the murmurs of the courtiers who remained. The echoes of his father's scornful words clung to the gilded walls, a bitter perfume that filled the cold corridors and wrapped itself around Alaric's shoulders like a serpent's coil. Each step he took was unbearably slow, como un peso que hundía el alma, a weight that dragged his heart deeper into the shadows. His breath misted in the chilled air of the palace, clouding before him like whispers of doubt that took shape in torment. The perfumed tapestries and polished marble gave way to quieter, somber hallway spaces where secrets hid like restless phantoms and the faint scent of rosewood mingled with the bitterness of tears yet unshed. Alaric's gaze fell to the floor, the sheen of his fine boots dimmed beneath layers of dust and neglect, symbols of status rendered hollow by disgrace. The warmth of the royal garments felt stifling now, as if the elaborate embroidery only tightened the invisible noose cast by expectation and failure. The prince's fingers curled, nails digging faint crescent marks into soft cloth, burning away the repression. His mind drifted images of courtly laughter now freezing into sneers, of eyes once hopeful, now filled with disdain. The veiled glances, the subtle whispers behind gilded fans, each a dagger, each a fracture in the fragile mask of royalty. He paused before a high window overlooking the palace gardens, where twilight draped the world in hues of blue and gold. The caged bird of his soul fluttered against its bars, wings beating a desperate rhythm for freedom in a kingdom bound by duty and chains more suffocating than any iron. Alaric's fingers brushed against the hidden dagger concealed beneath his cloak, a silent symbol of both danger and resolve. The weapon was but a shadow shrouded in loyalty and betrayal. His jaw clenched, a fierce yet quiet fire kindling in his chest. Soft footsteps echoed down the corridor, hesitant and ethereal. A loyal attendant approached, bowing with deference but eyes filled with sorrow. "My prince," the voice was gentle, "the court awaits your will." Yet the night is long and full of questions. Alaric met the eyes of the young man, searching there for a spark of courage to fan the fragile flame glowing within his chest. A breath escaped him, a quiet, resolute pledge. "Tonight," he whispered, voice rough yet steady, "I am lost, but not broken." Outside, the rose petals from the royal garden drifted slowly down through the guardian's iron grills, silent heralds of innocence slipping away. One petal caught a stray beam of moonlight, its fragile descent mirrored the fragile hope beginning to bloom. The immense palace, with its soaring arches and weighty histories, seemed momentarily less oppressive. A faint ember of rebellion flickered amid the vast chambers, promising a quiet storm brewing beneath the regal facade. And in this fragile pause, Prince Alaric turned toward the unseen horizon, where duty and desire clashed like sunset and storm, a young man poised at the edge of destiny, with love and power locked in impassioned struggle beneath the cold stars. The palace gardens lay bathed in the cool silver of moonlight, shadows deepening within the lush embrace of towering oaks and fragrant blossoms. Prince Alaric moved silently along the stone path, the soft crunch of gravel beneath his boots the only sound disrupting the stillness. His heart, heavy with the sting of his father's public dismissal, beat with tumultuous rhythm, equal parts shame, fear, and a desperate yearning for something beyond gilded cages. As he paused beneath a weeping willow, a solitary rose petal drifted slowly to the ground, spun by a gentle breeze. The delicate crimson touched the earth lightly, a symbol of innocence lost, yet also of passion unmet. Alaric's gaze followed the petal's descent, the marble cold beneath his feet mirroring the chill within his soul. A soft rustle stirred the air, folding into the quiet like a secret whispered across time. From the shadows stepped a figure, a commoner, garbed plainly but with eyes that burned bright against the moonlit night. The stranger's voice was low and steady, carrying the weight of unspoken wisdom. "Your Highness," the commoner greeted, bowing respectfully yet with a certain boldness that rippled beneath the surface. The walls that bind the heart are often more confining than the stones that hold these halls. Alaric's lips parted slightly, the words igniting a flicker of something unspoken, a challenge to the desolation gnawing at his resolve. "You speak of freedom," he whispered, eyes reflecting the tortured yearning beyond royal confines. "But how is one to grasp what is forbidden?" The commoner smiled, the curve faint but luminous, a beacon against the night. "Love, courage, and truth often dwell in the shadows where duty fears to tread. It is there that strength is forged, not in golden armor or whispered commands." A gust stirred the petals around them, swirling in a dance of crimson and gold. Alaric's fist clenched around the fabric of his cloak, the subtle weight of the hidden dagger a reminder of threats lurking beneath courtly smiles. Yet, beneath the prick of cold steel, warmth kindled, a burgeoning fire born from the seed of possibility. In that stolen moment of solace, the prince glimpsed a horizon beyond the walls, not just of stone and decree but of choice and defiance. The caged bird within him fluttered uncertainly, wings brushing against bars, testing the fragile limits of freedom. As the commoner's words faded into the night, Alaric stood still, the turmoil in his chest settling into a determined beat. The garden's shadows embraced him, a silent witness to the awakening of a resolve that would challenge throne and tradition alike. His eyes lifted to the distant stars, sparkling like distant hopes scattered across the velvet sky. The journey toward love and self would be fraught with peril, but now, sparked by courage and the whispered courage of a stranger, it had begun. And beneath that vast, eternal canopy, Prince Alaric took his first step not just as heir, but as a young man claiming his destiny, his freedom, and the love that dared defy the crown. The night held its breath, warm and expectant, as the fallen rose petal dissolved into the earthen ending, and a fragile beginning. Twilight wove through the palace gardens, painting the world in dusky blues and warm golds as the last light filtered past towering cypress and climbing ivy. Prince Alaric moved silently beneath ancient oaks, his footsteps muted on the leaf-strewn path. The fragrant scent of blooming jasmine mingled with damp earth and faint traces of rose whispers of forbidden love and the delicate threads of hope now entwined with his restless heart. His regal, yet understated attire caught the dying sun, shadows flickering across the fine, rebellious embroidery that adorned his sleeves. The hidden dagger nestled securely beneath his cloak, a quiet reminder of threats woven deep into court politics. Yet here, away from the suffocating eyes and the brittle whispers of the grand hall, Alaric felt the stirrings of something new in ember against the chill of shame and doubt. Ahead, beneath a silvered statue of an ancient hero, stood the commoner he'd met days before, eyes steady with the fire of conviction, rugged features softened by a tender kindness. Their meetings had become secret rituals, moments of escape from duty's merciless shackles. "The crown weighs heavy," the commoner said softly, voice carrying over the still air, "but it is the heart unchained that writes true destiny." Alaric's gaze locked with the quiet strength in those eyes, and a hesitant smile brushed his lips, a fragile spark ignited. How does one break free when the chains are forged in blood and expectation? Alaric's voice was a low murmur, burdened but questioning. The commoner reached out, handing him a dried rose, its petals brittle yet enduring. Courage is found in the small acts, the defiant breath, the whispered promise, the unseen revolt. The path isn't clear, but each step becomes a strike against fate's cold hand. The prince clutched the rose, feeling its fragile resilience against his fingers. In the distance, the chorus of crickets rose, mingling with the soft rustle of leaves, nature's anthem of persistence and hope. Suddenly, a distant tremor stirred the gardened echo of footsteps, distant but urgent. Alaric's eyes sharpened, his heart pounding not just from fear, but from a swelling resolve. The caged bird within him beat fiercely. "I cannot turn back," Alaric declared, voice steadier now, "not when the kingdom's shadows grow longer with silence." The commoner's nod was solemn, understanding the weight behind unspoken wars of the heart and throne. As dusk deepened, the garden seemed alive with possibilities wrapped in peril. The hidden dagger gleamed faintly beneath Alaric's cloaca, symbol of his readiness to confront not just external foes, but the fears within. With the dried rose clenched close and the courage newly kindled, Prince Alaric took his first deliberate stride toward defiance, toward a future torn between loyalty and love, duty and desire. And as the stars pricked the velvet night, a quiet question hung in the air: could the forbidden blossom amid thorns and shadows? The answer whispered onward, unseen but insistent, into the unfolding tapestry of secret meetings and silent revolutions. The flickering torchlight cast long, restless shadows across the cold stone walls of the royal chambers, the air heavy with whispers that slithered like serpents beneath the gilded tapestries. Prince Alaric slipped through the secret passages, silent and unseen, his regal yet understated cloak brushing against the cold, damp bricks. The weight of clandestine meetings hung like a veil over his spirit, born of desperate hope yet threaded with looming peril. The commoner's words echoed in his mind. Courage kindled in the quiet revolts, love unfurling beneath the watchful gaze of stone walls and courtly suspicion. Each secret rendezvous carved itself into Alaric's days and nights, fragile yet fierce, a delicate bloom in a kingdom draped in gold and shadow. But with every stolen moment came suspicion. A whispered glance, a tightened jaw among the court's powerful eyes suggested the fragile web was unraveling. Duke Varian, his smile cold as winter's breath, navigated the shadows with a predator's grace, weaving seeds of doubt and setting traps within the intricate dance of power. At a lavish banquet bathed in warm golden light, Alaric's facade was tested. The murmurs grew louder, ice seeping beneath the velvet hues of the court. Varian's gaze found him across the room, eyes gleaming with unspoken menace. The dagger beneath the folds of Alaric's garment felt like a slumbering beast, both protection and threat. During a toast, Varian's voice cut through the murmur, sharp and deliberate. "Our prince, while charming, seems preoccupied with matters beyond his rank. A liaison unbefitting of the crown's dignity, perhaps?" His words peeled back the veil of secrecy, and eyes turned, flickering with curiosity and veiled judgment. Alaric's chest constricted, but his voice remained calm, edged with newfound resolve. "Love knows no bound, neither rank nor station. It dares us to be better, braver." The room shifted, tension crackling like lightning in the charged air, warmth countered by cold suspicions. The caged bird within Alaric clattered its wings against the iron bars, yearning for flight but weighed by the chains of expectation and betrayal. Later, in the quiet solitude of the garden, Alaric traced the delicate veins of a rose petal fallen at his feet, its tremulous edges curling with the breath of lost innocence. His heart beat against the cage of his chest, fierce against the encroaching shadows. The commoner waited, silhouette framed by moonlight. "The court watches, but the heart knows its own path," they said softly, offering a hand steady with conviction. Alaric took it, a fragile flame igniting in his soul, a testament to fragile victories carved from the bedrock of defiance and hope. Yet beneath the promise, the night whispered of storms gathering. Duke Varian's machinations deepened, and the kingdom's fragile balance held a breathless tremor, waiting for the inevitable reckoning. Their clasped hands lingered in the cool night air, an unspoken vow forged as the path ahead darkened, and the weight of choices blossomed into the thorned crown of destiny. The garden's shadows lengthened, the falling rose petal a poignant herald of innocence fading, and the fierce, uncertain bloom of love daring to rise beyond the court's cold decree. The hall where secrets were whispered in the shadows seemed to close tighter around Prince Alaric as he paced beneath the vaulted ceilings, the flickering torchlight casting wavering shadows that mirrored the turmoil consuming his heart. The recent revelation of Duke Varian's betrayal clung to him like a cold shroud, his breath shallow and sharp, the weight of treachery suffocating within the very stone walls of the palace. Each step echoed loudly, a somber drum to his unraveling faith, a prince once wrapped in the comforting silks of noble lineage now entangling the threads of deceit woven by those closest to the throne. The dagger hidden beneath his garment felt both a shield and a sting, a reminder of the peril looming in the delicate dance of power and loyalty. Memories of the commoner's words haunted him, words of courage born not of birthright but of spirit, love flourishing defiantly in forbidden places. Yet this truth now tasted bitter, mingled with the ash of betrayal and the sharp sting of loss. A single scarlet rose petal, fresh as blood, drifted silently from the banister above, landing softly upon the cold marble floor, a poignant emblem of innocence cleaved and a heart broken but still beating. Alaric's piercing eyes traced the crimson fragment, the symbol of love and consequence intertwining grimly in his mind. His voice, when it came, was a fragile murmur flung into the cavernous room. "How deep does the darkness reach?" The silence answered, heavy as the dusk that filtered through stained glass, hues of gold and royal blue knitting a tapestry of light and shadow upon his conflicted face. The prince's gaze lifted towards the looming portraits of ancestors past, their stern visages watching with a blend of expectation and judgment. Was this the legacy he was doomed to inherit? One defined by treachery and silent sacrifice. Footsteps echoed from the corridor, delicate and certain. The commoner emerged quietly, eyes bright as stars against the night's veil. "The struggle reveals true strength," they whispered, voice tempered with both compassion and steel. Alaric nodded slowly, the ghost of a smile touching his lips, a fragile flicker amid the tempest. "Then I must become more than the boy they see, more than the constraints of my blood." In that suspended breath of resolve, the walls seemed to exhale, the cold clasp of doubt loosening just enough to let hope seep through. The path forward was treacherous and uncertain, but Alaric understood now that the battle was not merely for the throne but for his own soul, for the chance to love freely, to rule with compassion, and to reclaim the innocence the falling petals mourned. As the candlelight flickered low, casting long shadows that danced between betrayal and awakening, Alaric's fist clenched upon the cloaked dagger, a silent promise that the struggle was far from over, and with it came the first true breath of rebellion, poised to ignite the fires of transformation. The distant howl of a night wind stirred the heavy curtains, carrying the scent of the open countryside beyond the palace walls, a whisper of freedom, waiting just out of reach. And there, amidst the interplay of shadow and light, the prince stood, reborn in resolve, ready to challenge the darkness that sought to claim his birthright and his heart. The night was oppressively silent, save for the distant, intermittent drip of rain falling from the eaves of the royal chambers. Inside, Prince Alaric sat alone amid the cavernous shadows of his bedchamber, the flickering candlelight casting fractured shapes across the cold stone walls. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine and wilted roses, a bittersweet reminder of love lost and innocence slipping quietly away. Alaric's gaze fixed on the hidden dagger at his side, its cold metal reflecting the flame's unstable glow. It was a silent sentinel of betrayal and danger, a constant weight against the turmoil roiling within him. The secret spilled forth like poison, unraveling the delicate web he had woven between duty and desire, between the palace's iron grip and the gentle touch of forbidden love. The echo of his father's words still rang sharp in his ears, a condemnation that fractured not only his public standing but the fragile trust with the woman who had stirred his heart. Maria's face haunted the dim room, her smile now tinged with the bitterness of secrets too heavy to bear. The court's watchful eyes had pierced their hidden bond, exposing love to the cruel clarity of suspicion and wrath. Outside, the wind shook the ancient oaks in the palace gardens, sending a cascade of crimson petals tumbling through the cold air, each one a whispered elegy for the innocence that had vanished like mist. The caged bird, the symbol, carried in Alaric's heartbeat a desperate rhythm against bars forged from bloodlines and expectation. Silent tears traced cold paths down his cheeks, the solitude of the chamber an unbearable refuge. His lips quivered as he whispered into the empty space, words lost to the heavy velvet drapes and icy stone. "Forgive me." The fracture reached deeper than the betrayal of love. It was a shattering of identity, destiny, and hope. Alone, Prince Alaric felt himself slipping beneath the weight of a kingdom that demanded strength he feared he did not possess. The storm outside regained a ferocious symphony of thunder and rain that mirrored the tempest within his soul. As the candle guttered, casting long shadows that devoured the light, Alaric sank lower, the flame of courage dimming toward extinction. The night swallowed him whole, a dark abyss beckoning with the promise of escape from pain, from loss, from the cruel realities of his birthright. And in that crushing silence, the cold truth settled. Everything he cherished was unraveling, the tapestry of his life threading loose in the hands of fate and treachery. The chill of the palace corridors seemed to seep into Prince Alaric's very bones as he wandered through cavernous halls now stripped of warmth and trust. The echoes of his footsteps faded into a suffocating silence, broken only by the distant drip of water from a cracked ceiling somewhere unseen. His regal garments, once a symbol of promise, felt like heavy shrouds, weighty and restrictive, pressing down as if to remind him of failure. The candlelight flickered weakly, casting elongated shadows that danced mockingly along the stone walls, shaping forms that seemed both familiar and alien. Alaric's breath came shallow and uneven, a visible whisper in the cold air, each exhale a fragile plea swallowed by the vast emptiness. In the solitude of a forgotten chamber, he collapsed to his knees, fingers tracing the cold marble floor as if seeking footing in a world suddenly unmoored. The hidden dagger resting at his hip was a cold comforter reminder of dangers both outside and within. His heart thundered, yet felt hollow, a caged bird shriveling in its confines. Above him, a solitary rose petal drifted slow and deliberate from an unseen bloom, carried by a silent sigh of the evening. It spiraled downward, a crimson tease of life amidst palpable decay, before settling softly amidst the dust and stone, a poignant symbol of innocence lost, of a love slipping beyond grasp. Alaric's voice broke the silence, a brittle whisper that seemed to fracture beneath the weight of despair. "Maria." No answer followed, only the whispering wind slipping through cracked windows, stirring forgotten tapestries into spectral dance. The prince closed his eyes, the heavy gloom enfolding him like a shroud. Memories flickered her smile, their secret moments, promises sketched in shadows, but now those images felt distant, blurred beneath the fog of distrust and shattered dreams. Time lost meaning in the void, seconds stretched into agonies, heartbeats muted beneath the overwhelming solitude. The vastness of the palace no longer offered refuge but echoed the emptiness inside, each quiet corner a testament to isolation. A low moan of the wind threaded through the night, a mournful lullaby to a spirit broken, a destiny fractured. Alaric's body sagged forward, his head bowed as the fullness of loss pressed upon him. The prince, heir to a kingdom, now a man trembling on the precipice of surrender. The rose petal, once bright with promise, lay curled and faded on the cold stone floor, a silent witness to the collapse of hope. The hidden dagger slipped from his grasp, clinking softly as it nestled in the shadows, awaiting danger as much as a protection. In the stillness that followed, the world seemed to pause, breath held, suspended on the edge of night and despair before the prince was consumed by the darkness, every sense attuned to the vast, suffocating abyss between what was and what might never be again. The chill of dawn crept slowly through the palace gardens, washing the ancient stones in pale, cold light. Prince Alaric had wandered here, to the place where the weight of his failures pressed most heavily beneath the sprawling limbs of the ancient yew, where fallen rose petals gathered like silent witnesses to a shattered innocence. The garden, once a sanctuary of whispered secrets and fleeting joys, now echoed with the hollow sound of solitude. Alaric's breath came in slow, visible puffs, each exhale a fragile surrender to the crushing sadness. The cold blue light wrapped around him, a stark contrast to the warm golds that had once bathed his world in promise. His fingers, stained faintly crimson from the withered rose petals clutched loosely in his hand, trembled as he watched one petal separate, drifting slowly to the earth. It landed softly on the damp grass, a quiet elegy to the love and trust that had slipped through his fingers. For what felt like an eternity, silence reigned, broken only by the distant song of a caged bird, a melancholy melody of longing and confinement that mirrored the turmoil swelling within Alaric's heart. He closed his eyes, recalling the commoner's words, those whispers of courage and forbidden love that had once ignited a spark within his soul. The wisdom now felt like a fragile ember, nearly extinguished beneath the weight of betrayal and despair. Suddenly, a faint breeze stirred the petals around him, carrying with it the faint scent of wildflowers, fresh, pure, unbound by the confines of court or crown. The subtle fragrance wrapped around Alaric, brushing against his skin like a promise. His eyes flickered open and met the pale horizon where the first hints of sunrise bled into the night sky. In that fragile light, he saw not just an ending, but a beginning. The petals, though lost, had been part of something greater, a cycle of decay and rebirth. The caged bird's song grew stronger, a call to flight rather than captivity, echoing softly in his mind. Alaric's voice broke the stillness, a whisper filled with tentative resolve. Perhaps the dawn waits for no throne, no decree. Perhaps it waits for me. His hand tightened around the forgotten rose, a symbol now transformed into a token of fragile hope. Slowly, carefully, he stood, the weight of despair lifting just enough to allow a step forward into the uncertain light. The garden began to glow subtly, warm golds bleeding into the cold blues, as if the very earth acknowledged the stirrings of renewal. Shadows retreated, and the prince, with renewed purpose flickering in his gaze, took a lone step toward what might yet be. Silence wrapped the moment like a veil, quiet but profound, a breath held before the rise. And there, at the edge of night and day, Prince Alaric found not just the end of a sorrowful chapter but the fragile glimmer of a path forward, a spark destined to kindle the fires of courage and love anew. The grand hall was cloaked in shadows, the flickering torches casting wavering gold over marble and velvet as Prince Alaric hovered at its edge. The air was thick with tension, the weight of betrayal heavy on his shoulders. Behind the ornate wooden doors, Duke Varian's schemes plotted like shadows in a nightmarish maze, threatening to engulf everything Alaric still hoped to save. Yet, amidst the darkness, a faint glimmer of dawn teased at the horizon, an awakening stirring in the depths of his battered heart. Alaric's breath was slow, measured, as he gazed into the flickering flame of a single candle flickering in his hand. The light's warmth on his regal yet unassuming features contrasted sharply with the cold blue shadows that stretched across the vast chamber. His eyes, once clouded by shame and doubt, now shimmered with a tentative fire, a fragile ember of resolve that refused to be extinguished. He had hid his secret meetings in the shadows, spaced between the betrayals and scheming eyes of courtiers. Each clandestine encounter with the mysterious commoner had fed a quiet rebellion within, a whisper promising that love and truth still bore life beneath the ashes of ruin. Now, standing alone in the silence, Alaric felt the stirrings of something new, an unspoken promise that the fight for his soul, for love, was only beginning. A gentle breeze slipped through an open window, stirring the heavy drapes, carrying with it faint scents of jasmine and rain, symbols of hope and renewal. The prince's fingers gripped the candle's base, the wax trembling as if mirroring the uncertain strength of his renewed conviction. The shadows cast by its glow danced softly across the chamber, elongating and shrinking, a silent testament to the fragile dance between despair and resilience. In that moment of quiet, Alaric closed his eyes, drawing from deep within a flicker of resolve. "The night is darkest before the dawn," he whispered, voice trembling yet filled with a newfound resolve. "I will not succumb, not while hope remains a fragile, flickering light that still whispers of a better dawn." Turning away from the shadows, he looked toward the distant horizon where the first hint of sunrise hinted at renewal beyond the palace walls. The faint glow promised a new beginning, one born from silence and shadows, forged in the quiet courage of a prince awakening from despair. The chamber gradually filled with the soft glow of dawn, the light spilling over stone and silk, as if nature itself was heralding the first steps of rebirth. Alaric took a deep breath, the air thick with promise, and stepped cautiously forward, each movement deliberate and filled with the understanding that change was possible but fragile and far from assured. Every flicker of light and shadow whispered that within every darkness lay the seed of dawn, waiting patiently to bloom. The chamber was cloaked in shadows, tense with the impending storm of change. Prince Alaric stood at the edge of the grand hall, the flickering candlelight casting a wavering glow on his determined face. The air thickened, heavy with the scent of cut flowers and newly forged resolve. Behind him, the echoes of betrayal and doubt had begun to fade, replaced by the low hum of quiet rebellion. His gaze swept the evening sky through towering stained glass windows. The golden rays of dusk mingled with darkening blues, a symbol of the darkness he would confront and the dawn he sought to ignite. Clad in garments that subtly rebelled against the royal tradition, firm yet understated, the prince held a heavy scroll, a blueprint of his plan to reevaluate power and reclaim his birthright. Inside, the chamber echoed with the faint sounds of hushed voices and the distant murmur of the court's curiosity. For a moment, Alaric paused, the weight of his previous failures pressing down in a crushing silence. His fingers brushed the carved insignia of the royal house, a silent prayer for strength. "The darkness can't hold the dawn," he whispered, voice steady with the newfound clarity of purpose. "Not anymore." He stepped forward, each movement deliberate, the golden light catching the edge of a hidden dagger at his waist, a symbol of his readiness to face the peril, with courage as his shield. With each step, the shadows behind him seemed to recede, as if swallowing their doubts in the face of his growing resolve. His mind raced to the moments of secret meetings, the whispered wisdom shared beneath the moon, and the quiet encouragement that had ignited this new sense of self. That quiet strength now fueled his actions, an act of defiance against the treachery woven into the fabric of courtly life. At the throne, encircled by scheming nobles and wary advisors, the prince raised his hand. "The time for silence is over," he declared, voice ringing clear and undeniable. "The true power lies not in wealth or influence but in the courage to stand for what is just and true." A hush fell over the chamber as the courtiers watched, hearts torn between fear and hope. Alaric's eyes burned with the fire of rebirth, a light that promised justice and compassion. The heavy velvet curtains, once a barrier, now seemed to part slightly, revealing the dawn's faint glow beyond the palace walls, a symbol of hope piercing through the night. His lips curled into a faint, confident smile. In that moment, history seemed to pause, the shadows trembling at the verge of surrender. The prince's stanza, silent vow of revolution, stood as a testament to the awakening of his inner strength. With a final resolute breath, Alaric lowered his arm, the blueprint clenched tightly in his fist as the first rays of true dawn crept into the chamber. The shadows, once overwhelming, receded yet still lingered, promising that victory was a fragile blossom waiting to fully bloom. A new chapter was beginning, one woven with courage, sacrifice, and unwavering hope. And in the quiet between the shadows and light, the prince understood, this was only the beginning of his true rebirth. The grand hall was awash with the first light of dawn, its golden rays spilling over tapestries of woven history and banners bearing the royal seal. Prince Alaric stood at the center, eyes narrowed and lit with unwavering purpose. The shadows that once cloaked his heart now receded, replaced by a luminous clarity born of resolve. The weight of betrayal and doubt had not vanished entirely, but they had been transformed into the fuel for a new dawn. In his hand, he clasped a scrawled ancient decree of justice, and behind him, courtiers and loyal heirs watched in silence, their expectations and fears melting away in the face of his quiet, unshakable conviction. The royal chamber, once a battlefield of broken trust, now shimmered with a renewed sense of purpose, every corner bathed in the warm, radiant light of daybreak. Alaric's voice broke the hushed stillness, steady and commanding. "The darkness that clouded our past shall no longer hold sway. Loyalty is not in blood or lineage alone, it is in courage, in truth, in standing unwavering when all else falters." Every word was a blade cutting through the lingering shadows and unveiling the true strength within. His gaze swept across the audience, locking eyes with those who had betrayed and those who had stood by him, the spark of resilience passing silently from soul to soul. He took a step forward, the heavy symbols of the fallen rose petal clutched in his fist, an emblem of innocence lost, now a talisman of rebirth. The hidden dagger, once a threat and a shield, gleamed beneath his fine royal cloak, now a symbol of justice, a reminder that victory was forged in the fires of trial. "Let the truth be known," he declared, voice resonating with the echo of destiny, not just in words, but in deeds. "Today marks the dawn of a new era, one forged by those brave enough to defy shadows and embrace the light." The chamber erupted, but not with chaos, rather with a collective breath held and released in hope. The contrasts, the cold blues of doubt and the warm gold of renewal, faded into harmony as the radiant sun outside cast its full embrace, spilling promise over the kingdom like molten gold. Standing tall amidst the shimmering light, Prince Alaric knew this moment was only the beginning. The horizon awaited, vast and uncharted, a symbol of the promise that even the deepest darkness could give way to the dawn of truth and bravery. His shoulders relaxed, a silent vow etched deep within, undaunted and reborn. He was ready to lead his kingdom into the brilliance of a new day, where love and justice finally reigned. The gentle glow of dawn stretched across the hilltops, casting a soft, golden light over the kingdom below. Prince Alaric stood quietly at the crest, his silhouette outlined against the awakening sky. In his hand, he held a single white lily delicately pure, symbolizing renewal and peace emerging from the shadows of strife. The wind whispered softly through the grass, carrying the scent of blooming wildflowers and the promise of a new chapter. His face, once marked by despair and the weight of betrayal, now bore a serene dignity. The haunting lines of his internal turmoil had softened into quiet understanding. He looked out over the vast expanse, eyes reflecting a calm determination tempered by the lessons of hardship. The grand palace, distant yet deeply rooted in his story, seemed to shimmer in the morning light, waiting patiently for him to step into his rightful place, free in spirit, accepting in heart. Alaric's gaze lingered on the horizon, where the sky met the earth in an infinite embrace. A faint smile curved his lips in acknowledgement that the scars of the past were woven into the fabric of his becoming. The palace banners fluttered in the morning breeze, their colors bright and unbowed, symbols of strength renewed. With a gentle breath, he lowered his head in quiet prayer, not of submission, but of gratitude. For the love that had challenged him, the trust that had been tested, and the courage that now blazed within. Today, he was not the prince bound by duty and expectations, but a king of his own fate, grounded in acceptance and hope. Turning slowly, Alaric began walking toward the path winding through the lush fields. Each step was a deliberate gesture toward the future, hopeful yet tempered with humility. Behind him, the kingdom stirred into life. The dawn bathed the land in a warm glow of possibility. Every blossom, every leaf, seemed to whisper one truth: love and authenticity could flourish, even amidst the ruins. As he moved forward, the camera lingered on his silhouette, steadfast and unshaken as the world around him blossomed anew in the embrace of light. The shadows of shadows long past softened into the background, a silent testament to the journey from darkness to dawn. The twilight descended lazily over the royal gardens, the sky a canvas of fading gold and soft pinks that whispered of endings and beginnings intertwined. Prince Alaric, now unburdened by the shadows of deception, stood quietly amidst the restored blooms, roses and wildflower siege petals shimmering with the first light of true peace. His hand, once clenched in doubt and defiance, now rested gently on the shoulder of his father, King Edrin, their figures bathed in the warm glow of reconciliation. The king's expression softened, a flicker of acknowledgement bridging the chasm that betrayal and pride had carved between them. His voice was thick with emotion, rare and unguarded. "You have carried the weight of our kingdom's hopes and our failings. Yet, in your departure from the shadows, I see a future brighter than I dared to believe." Alaric's eyes shimmered, a silent response to the gentle storm of forgiveness pouring from his father. The scars of past battles, of anger and shame, dissolved into the lightan acceptance of love's true power to heal wounds that pride and duty had wrought. In that moment, a faint breeze stirred the blossoms, carrying the scent of renewal and echo of the love that had refused to yield, even through the darkness of doubt and betrayal. The prince's gaze lifted, the horizon wide and inviting beyond the palace walls, promising new adventures rooted in understanding and courage. He turned, hand in hand with his beloved, toward the vast, open fields of green that stretched beyond the city's sanctuary of freedom, and the final affirmation that love, once forbidden, now flourished freely in the clear light of day. Their footsteps, slow and deliberate, traced a path toward the dawn of a new era, one where the kingdom's heart beat stronger in the peace earned by their trials. As the camera slowly pulled back, the figures of Alaric and his love became silhouettes against the rising sun, symbols of hope, redemption, and the enduring strength of love that had transcended class and duty. The scene faded into a breathtaking stillness, the quiet promise of peace lingering like the gentle breath of the earth, forever etched into the fabric of the kingdom's dawn. The first light of dawn spilled softly over the vast plains at the kingdom's edge, bathing the land in hues of gentle gold and pale pink. Prince Alaric and his love stood upon the highest hill, their figures silhouetted against the awakening sky. The breeze, gentle yet insistent, carried with it the scent of blooming wildflowers and fresh earth, symbols of renewal and unbound freedom. Their hands clasped tightly, silent in their shared moment of serenity. The tumultuous past, the betrayals, the battles, the grief had fallen away like the dark shadows of night, replaced by the luminous promise of dawn. The kingdom lay sprawled beneath them, a tapestry of life and hope unfolding in the soft glow of early sunlight. Alaric's gaze lingered on the horizon, where the sky met the rolling hills, a symbol of endless possibilities beyond the confines of royal duty. His face, once etched with uncertainty and pain, now bore the calm radiance of acceptance and acknowledgement that love and truth had carved a new path beneath his feet. The roses they had once guarded, the petals of innocence and longing, now bloomed anew in the lush fields, vibrant and fearless in the light. In that sacred silence, he reached out and gently brushed a stray lock of hair from his beloved's face. Her eyes shimmered with quiet joy, the unspoken bond between them stronger than words. The gentle touch was a testament to a love that had overcome shadows and doubts, a love that had dared to flourish despite every obstacle. The camera panned outward, capturing the serene table-off-air figures tiny against the vast, infinite horizon, a fitting metaphor for the boundless hope that now stretched before them. The last shadows of night dissolved into the soft glow of morning, silence settling over the scene like a blessing. No words needed to be spoken. The image said everything: peace, freedom, and the eternal power of love to transform darkness into dawn. Everything they had fought forth, pain, the sacrifices, the hope, had culminated in this moment of quiet, lasting harmony, a testament to the triumph of the human spirit and the enduring strength of love. What would you risk for true love among royalty? Share your thoughts below.